Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Turning Tuesday. In this episode, I forgot to get the things, we are going to have a go at hollowing. I'm going to make a little thing out of this block of line and just see what happens, to be honest. Let's get going. So I've got a rough idea of what I want this thing to look like, but it's kind of hard to explain. Thinking like an orb type thing. A little bit more tall than it is wide, but it's going to be very, very rounded. And then I'm going to try and get the wall down to about, I'm going to aim for about 5mm, I reckon. So I obviously don't need this whole thing. I'm going to lock that straight in half. That'll give me plenty of holding capacity. And then we'll cut it up on the bandsaw. The miter saw seemed a better idea. I can't remember if I said it at the start, but the wood I'm using for this is lime. It's better known for being really nice to carve because it's so close-grained and soft and just really easy to get a chisel into. And for that reason, I didn't really have it down as a wood that would be good for turning, but it was recommended to me by an old colleague, so I'll give it a go. We'll see what happens. I'll just get my centers marked to begin with. You see my new extraction hose. Got that mounted on like a bendy shaft. It's also on a slidey thing behind as well, so I can move it depending on the length of the material I'm working on. I've also got this little thing called a cup converter, so instead of putting loads of pressure on the live center there and first of all creating a huge mark in the end grain there, and also if this is a smaller component it might actually split it because of the wedging action, there's this thing called a cup center which you slot over it and then it kind of distributes the pressure a little bit more. It's probably not needed for this project, but I thought I'd give it a go. You can get live centers that have this built into it, but this is sort of a retrofit for a live center. See what it does. Right, and then let's get this thing round. Oh my lord, that is the nicest wood I've ever turned in my 5 days turning experience. I made noodles. Look at that. So cool. Before I get too carried away, I need to change the jaws on the chuck and just make sure that I'm not going to make the piece too small again like I did previously. So in these gripper jaws, there's big serrations here, which will obviously grip the workpiece. And then there's also some ones in here as well. So I'm going to try and turn my workpiece so that I get the grip of both of those pieces, just to keep the piece more sturdy in there. I'm sure a piece this small would be fine in that top section, but having it in that bottom section would mean it's less likely to tip side to side because it's got more support along its length. So I've got some Turner's calipers here. What I'll do is just pop those into the jaw, open them up to their full width, which will be sort of there, lock it down. So then that's the width of the chuck, which means I can use this side to measure the diameter of the piece, and as soon as it gets to that, I know I'm there. Right, let's not try and part it off this time. I am going to remove it from the lathe, cut it off with a handsaw, and then hopefully this will fit in the chuck lovely. Cool, right, I can see that is definitely gripping at the top. Can't quite see the bottom, but, oh no, I can. Yes, it's gripping as well. Lovely. So I guess the opening on this I need to have big enough to accept the hollowing tool. So, let's see. Well, just about getting there, I think. Ooh, I love doing this. Okay, what was I doing? I'm going to try and put some like little lip on top of it as well, just for like decoration. Not sure what it's called. It might be called a lip. So I guess the main thing is you kind of need to shape everything beforehand. So above all, I don't want to hit the chuck. So I think I'm going to part it off kind of like around there, I reckon. So that'll be where it finishes. Actually, just bring it forward a bit, just because I'm definitely not that confident yet. Part it off there, so then I need like a round sweep thing. Actually, I can go closer than that, I think, to get the proportions of this right. We're going to part it there. It's just going to be a load of lines by the end of this. So we'll part it there, round thingy. I think I've got this sussed out.
Damn it!
That's looking pretty nice. I got a pretty nasty catch from the skew, which I'd love to be able to practice the skew on this even more, but this is a project to practice hollowing. It is not a project to practice skewing. So I'm going to change the live center to a Forstner bit and begin drilling out the end of it. I'm not going to go to full depth to start with. I'm probably going to go down, I don't know, about 5mm, bring it out, and then I'm going to shape the lip of it first before going to full depth, just to keep the strength in the end of it before I start weakening the entire structure of this. Right, so now it comes to hollowing it out. Now this feels weird. I think I'm going to move the tool rest back a little bit so I can actually rest it on the round shaft. I guess you've really got to stop this from twisting as it's going in. So I'm going to put lots of pressure on top of it and then just keep checking it with calipers and see what happens, really. So I'm approaching the final thickness now. Looking at this, up here is about 5mm or so. Down here, still looks to be around 8mm or so. I want to try and get a bit off down there first. Well, I'm really struggling to get the last little bit cleaned out at the moment with this tool, so I'm going to swap the end to a egg scraper tip and see if that helps. Right, so I've got the sides down super thin now, like we're talking that. And it feels pretty consistent. Everywhere I check, that was even thinner there. It's kind of all floating around that. The only thing I'm getting is, right at the bottom of this, I've got a bit of tear out. I'll just refocus the camera so you can see. Let's bump that up, and there. Yeah, you can kind of see it in the bottom there. It's not as smooth as I'd like it to be, so I'm going to try and get in there with the scraper as well. Can't think of any other tool that will do it easily. So that works really well. Found that using the egg scraper tip on here was good for cleaning out most of the bottom, getting rid of all that tear out. But then it wasn't able to get rid of the sort of center of it where it wasn't really spinning much. But I found that the square-ended scraper, I was just able to come in from the side and get rid of that little nub that was left in the middle. And it feels pretty good at the moment. It's not too bad. It could do with a bit of sanding, but to be honest, I don't really want to get my finger in there while it's spinning and sand it. I know this would probably be okay because it's a relatively big opening, but I don't want to I don't want to risk it, seeing as it's the first time. So I've got this dowel with a bit of leather wrapped around it. I'm just going to tape some sandpaper around that, and that will allow me to get in there and finish it off really easily. It's got like a little rounded point on it as well, so I can get right to the bottom. I'll just see how that works. Right, so now I guess it's time to part this thing off. So I'm going to do like little bits at a time, then sand underneath so that there isn't so much to clean up afterwards. Yeah, something like that. Let's go. Right, I want to try and part this off while it is spinning because I don't want to have to clean up any little nipple on the bottom there. Just want it to come cleanly off, so it means I'm going to have to do some one-handed parting with this while sort of cupping it from underneath to make sure it doesn't fall and crack on the bed below because it's incredibly thin. And this time, unlike with this box, I haven't got it clamped between centres, so when it gets parted off it's not going to get jammed in there. It's actually got room to fall down. So I ended up finishing it in a coat of liming wax. If you don't know what that is, I've already done a video on it. Link is in the top corner. Basically a series I did on experimental finishes. In fact, in that video, I mixed it with crayons to change the color of it. But normally it's white. So I used it to lighten the color of the lime and it looks awesome. I really like it. I've got the walls incredibly thin on it. The bottom is cleaned up relatively nicely. Probably could have been a bit more careful with the parting tool, but yeah, looks all right. Very, very good introduction to the hollowing tool, that. Very good. Not entirely sure they'll all go as smoothly as that, but we'll go with it for now. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And if you have any suggestions on other things you'd like to see me do on these Turning Tuesdays, chuck it in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next video.